NBC News confirmed today that the computer hacks on the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee are wider than originally believed, and that they were the result of a Russian hack. Congressman Adam Schiff, ranking member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, released this statement earlier today. If this indeed turns out to be a cyber attack and leak conducted by a foreign actor to influence our elections, that would be a grave matter that should come with serious consequences. That foreign actors may be trying to influence our election, let alone a powerful adversary, should concern all Americans of any party. But before these breaches happened, a 2014 report by the Presidential Commission on Election Administration warned of an impending crisis arising from the widespread wearing out of voting machines purchased a decade ago or more. The lack of any voting machines on the market that meet the current needs of election administrators, and a standard-setting process that has broken down, a certification process for new machines that is costly and time-consuming. Joining us now, Adrian Karatnitsky, Senior Fellow for the Atlantic Council and an expert on Russia, and Ryan Manus, a Research Fellow in Security Resilience Studies at Northeastern University, who specializes in Russian foreign policy and cyber conflict and security. Mr. Manus, the vulnerability of our voting machines is much larger, just as in terms of the ones that simply face the problem of wear and tear and the possible breakdown on election day, creating massive lines that then make people turn away and leave. But the more modern ones that are vulnerable to cyber attack, what do you see as any new concerns that should be brought to that in light of what we are now learning about the DNC hack?
Well, what's going to be happening with the voting machines is much different than what happened with the DNC hack. The voting machines, a lot of these voting machines are pretty primitive in the sense they don't have they really don't have the wherewithal to be susceptible to sophisticated attacks. They're just like our industrial control systems they're just told to do a few things like count. So most of these machines, to hack them, you would need to physically hack them, meaning that you cannot do it remotely. You would have to be a human being with a screwdriver, getting into these voting precincts, maybe under cover of darkness, and then changing the firmware or hardware that way. And also, many of these voting precincts, they have these voting machines are backed up by paper audits. Meaning, if the machines are counting too much votes in relation to the paper ballots, then there's a manual recount. So a lot of this talk about the Russians possibly hacking our election is quite a undertaking compared to what they did with the DNC hack. The DNC was one network. We're talking about 200,000 different voting precincts with all kinds of different kinds of machines for this to really kind of be impactful to the point where we can cry foul. That's just what I can see.
Adrian, any possibility if this was a Russian hack that Vladimir Putin wasn't in on it, wasn't ordering it, wasn't?
Absolutely not. And I think, remember, in 2008, there was another hack of both the presidential campaigns of Senator McCain and then Senator Obama. Later on, it was revealed it was a Chinese hack that they were trying to figure out what was the internal discussion to get like inside intel on what the future foreign policy course might be, just kind of a head start. But this is an effort to influence ideas and to erode confidence in institutions. It's a direct intervention. And I think what Mr. Putin is interested in is creating chaos and creating mayhem and undermining public confidence. I mean, we all understand that when the ability of people to privately talk to one another is compromised.
But if you go into the Democratic Party, isn't that a deliberate attempt to undermine the Democratic Party and what it's trying to do? And,
yes,
if you look at the first wave of revelations, it's information that was very upsetting to Bernie Sanders supporters, completely understandably and rightfully so. Yeah. But what it was doing, in effect, was pitting Bernie Sanders supporters against Hillary Clinton supporters at the time when Bernie Sanders was trying to unify.
Absolutely. And if you look, Russia is very actively involved in electoral politics in Europe. It provides loans to far-right political candidates. It seems to have relationships with far-left political candidates and political parties. And so it's very clear that the patterns in Putin over the last 10 years with RTV and various media resources has been to kind of fracture and really to create an erosion of confidence and consolidation among political movements.
Adrian Karadzic.
I'd add that the Russians are pretty good at information warfare as well, as far as trying to influence the narrative in these Western countries as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
which this certainly would be designed to do. Adrian Karadzic and Ryan Manis, thank you both very much for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Coming up in